What can a designer do when it's organizing their Figma files to make it easier for a head of design like you to get a very high level overview of what's going on, or make it easier for you to consume their Figma files?
Good question. The one thing we try to do pretty good job of is these title cards are helpful mostly. This is a component that we have within Figma that has a title, a fun emoji, who's working on it, and kind of the state of it. We deeply encourage like some structure in the pages. Specifically, like the main page is one where people are encouraged to jump in no matter who you are, and like have the space to understand what's going on, see the latest. And so typically the main page here is the cleanest and maybe most understandable depending on who you are. And then there's a bunch of other stuff depending on what they're doing. So like wireframes, research, archive, or other popular pages that we have as well.
Folks, welcome to Sneak Peek. Today with me, I have an amazing guest. I have with me Adam, who's a head of design at Hex, and he's gonna show us how does a head of design use Figma. Adam, stoked to have you here. But first, let's see you do the sneak peek gesture.
Yeah, is it this?
Yes.
Or this?
You nailed
what sign
it.
is it?
Yep.
Is it which fingers? Okay.
I usually do the right one, but you nailed it. So, real quick, as a head of design, how do you use Figma?
So I do miss the days where I wasn't pushing pixels every day, of course. But Figma is super useful still to me as far as understanding what the team is up to, providing critique, just tracking work, especially something like the more like what we call design infra projects at Hex, which is a lot of things outside the immediate project team, like design system, employee experience work, even like blog posts and that kind of stuff.
So when you say tracking work in Figma, what can a designer do when it's organizing their Figma files, maybe documenting their Figma files to make it easier for a head of design like you to get a very high level overview of what's going on, or make it easier for you to consume their Figma files?
Good question. We actually recently upgraded to Figma Organization, so we're still in this teenage awkward state of making this a little bit cleaner for us and easier to self-serve. But one thing we try to do pretty good job of is these title cards are helpful mostly. This is a component that we have within Figma that has a title, a fun emoji, who's working on it, and the state of it. Figma, if you're listening, will have a little bit more control on this first class, but this is working out fine for us for now. But one way we organize our file to be as like self-servable as possible, oh my god, which actually bended into here, so let's try to pick a different file. All right, hold on one second, let me find a different file. So one way, it depends on the designer, of course, like everyone has their own level of cleanliness, but we deeply encourage like some structure in the pages. Specifically, like the main page is one where people are encouraged to jump in no matter who you are, and like have the space to understand what's going on, see the latest. And so typically the main page here is the cleanest and maybe most understandable depending on who you are. And then there's a bunch of other stuff depending on what they're doing. So like wireframes, research, archive, or other popular pages that we have as well.
Now for you, with so many projects going on at Hex with multiple designers, it's hard for you to go into literally every single page that a designer has created in their Figma file. So do you just hang out mostly in that main page where the final or usually the most polished pages reside or designs reside?
I haven't tried that really. It feels a bit 1984 or a bit kind of micromanagey. The way I've best engaged is there's two things. One, we have a design critique every week, an hour on Thursdays, where we go deep into 2 or 3 projects. And we use FigJam for this. And here's an example that we did recently, July 11th, where we have people will sign up, putting their name, some context, and then we, as a group, fill out what resonates, why, and then what can be better or clearer, why. So this is probably one of the best ways that I have catching you up to speed about the latest is of a project. And outside of that, I have like a 1 hour one-on-one with every designer every week. The first half is like one-on-one, kind of classic discussion. The second half is design jam. And for example, Sarah and I will spend time in like the file. We'll spend time in the file and just working together through things, whether it's like sitting side by side at the desk, if we're in the office together, or just via Zoom.
So Adam, real quick, this is very interesting for me. So as a head of design, you structure your day to get an idea of how all the projects are moving. You have design crits every week with the team, and that's 1 hour long, right?
Correct.
And how many people present? Is it like everyone gets 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or is it like it depends on who has to present?
So it's product design and brand design. So we try to at least have one person from both present. Typically we can get like 2 to 3, depending on what kind of feedback people are looking for. So sometimes it's much larger, it's actually less of a critique, more of a larger brainstorm, and a 20 to 30 minute discussion is going to be most necessary for that. Sometimes it's just a quick 5-minute show and tell. Hey, look here, here's the latest with this really cool animation or whatever I'm working on.
Can we go back to that critique file if that's okay? So,
Great.
got it. So we've got the critique going on. It's 1 hour. Both the product design and brand design take part in this critique. And the question here is that, do you have a voting system where everyone signs up like, hey, today from brand design, this person wants to present, or from product design, for example, Sarah wants to present? Do you have like a poll going, or everyone has to present as part of this?
It's pretty loose. It'll be pretty obvious when one person hasn't spoken in a while. So I do my best to make sure there's some load balancing there. I think critique can sometimes feel like a really high barrier to entry. Like, I do a lot of prep work. I got to put a whole thing together, presentation. And we're especially also hitting a state where it's like, there's, I think, 9 of us now. And having shared context of everything happening in Hex across brand and product design is really hard. So we try our best to provide a little bit of context, or enough context that's valuable. Maybe like a quick 2 to 3 minute spiel at the beginning. We've also experimented with sending looms out beforehand, which again, still feels like prep work. Like, I really want to lower the barrier to entry to like people like having to like do work, which then makes them less likely to bring things to crit. So even calling it crit, I think may be not the best word, at least how we treat it. Critique is one version of it, but it could be a brainstorm or like a show and tell. And it's just meant to be an hour where all of our brains come together and either learn something or share something or just get more like brain power on something. And so this could be a 20 to 30 minute like larger brainstorm discussion, deep critique, or just a little bit of a, hey, here's this awesome new like thing I just made. What do you guys think? And just get some hype going.
So if I'm a designer on your team, it looks like to me that I would maybe post my prototypes in there.
Yeah.
I'll give maybe 2-3 minute high level overview of what's going on, maybe some bullet points. Then the part where what resonates and why, the silent part, but everyone just takes like silent time to write this down.
Yeah, I found that some people, notably me, are just louder than others. And so we're trying to make sure it's a very inclusive environment during crit. So we'll have the person share like 2 to 3 minutes of, hey, here's what I'm working on, here's feedback I'm looking for, visual, interaction, all of the above. And then we'll start a Fig Jam timer, add some great music, somewhere between 5 to 6 minutes, and then just heads down, stickies +1 screenshots kind of a thing. And then, which we do is like within those 5 to 6 minutes, we tackle both of these sections. And then the timer goes off. The person who is presenting, who's looking for feedback, then says they drive the discussion. They say, cool. Usually it's like, thanks so much. I'm going to just talk about all these different things. And they'll expand. They'll ask people to expand or clarify or just have discussions based on the various sticky.
Okay, so this is how you conduct your design critiques. I know you don't want to use the word critiques, but for now, let's just say design critiques.
It's fine. Yeah, I don't mind.
Aside from that, you also have one-on-ones with your designers every week, right?
That's right.
For an hour. What I found so interesting in the way you structure your one-on-one is that half an hour is maybe catching up on what's going on, but you said the other half, you literally jam with them on the craft. That's amazing. Can you talk to me more about it? What do you mean by when you say you jam it? Let's say you have a one-on-one with Sarah. What happens in that jam part on the craft side?
The project and also the designer's tenure here. Taking a bit of a step back. So we have a really high quality bar here. We call it like shipping something that's stunning. The thing that's really hard about quality bars, I think across companies that I've discovered is like, they're hard to define. It's hard to be objective about what's the quality bar. And our quality bar has largely been defined by people who've been here very early, which includes me, of course, our CEO, who has like such a strong bar, a high bar for like delight and just beauty. So it can be pretty vibes based or subjective. And so the best way I've found so far, especially for designers who've been here for a year or less, this is like objectively good design. And then there's like hex taste is like this more narrow slice. And so how do I get people to point their work down that narrow slice? The best way I found it is just like spending time with people. Like I can look at a thing and I know exactly what our CEO, for example, would say.
Okay, can you show me an example in Figma? Like maybe just randomly pick any design and be like, okay, when I look at this design, I can tell on the taste or what the CEO might say to that.
Let's see here. So actually, here's a recent one. So I'm working with one of our designers, Sean, on just cleaning up an existing part of our UI that's become a bit of a Frankenstein. It's not an uncommon thing for as you add more features and new things to the different parts of a UI. For when you have a new thing, oh, cool, like this is, got to make sure this is discoverable. Let's make the button really loud. And then PM and designer and engineers doing that over the course of a few months, then you have a loudness competition happening in that part of the UI. we often try to take moments to reset the floor and kind of clean things up. Sean and I are currently working through some things here to really just clean up. So we have this sidebar data browser on the left of within the Hex project, and just explore the data, bring it into the notebook or the app just to further work on. For example, Barry will be very specific about buttons and the need for all these different kinds of buttons. Totally aligned there. One tool that I've built over time, not just really when working with him, but really anyone who has a really high bar for delight, is that every single pixel needs a why. Like, why is it here? And so if it's not a clear answer, then get rid of it. That doesn't always work for everything. But as an example, we have this little icon. I'm not sure that means anything to you. It's a logo for a DBT, which is like if you're using Hex, you're aware of what DBT is, but it doesn't matter. It's actually not necessary. Like, he would probably say that's not necessary to put there. It's actually adding visual noise. Like, that information can be available on hover, for example. There's a lot more things we could be doing generally from a progressive disclosure perspective. Like, all these icons, they really need to be there. Do they? Like, it's just adding more visual noise. Does this thing need to be 2 lines and in gray box? That feels noisy, like heavier noise. It feels heavily visually than it probably needs to be. Does this refresh icon need to be, or could it be underneath the kebab menu here? Like, those little things are things that he is really like interested in to simplify as much as possible without stripping it away entirely.
I've got a confession to make with you. Most of my one-on-ones over the years with managers have been more about how's everything going, how's life outside of work and stuff. Only in rare cases where my manager came from an agency background or something like that would part of the one-on-one also involve jamming together on the craft. So I'm just going to ask you a lot of noob questions. If I'm a designer on your team and I just joined and we have this Adam and Jay one-on-one and you're like, let's go in your file, let's jam together on the craft. Is the expectation that I'm supposed to be better than you at the craft or better than at Figma? Is this like competition? Because that's going to be what's going through my mind. Oh, is Adam going to judge me how fast I'm going to be using Figma? Is he going to judge me on all the shortcuts do I know or not in Figma?
I'm not asking them to design in front of me. I think that's stressful for anyone.
Okay, so there's no live design. Okay.
No. And to be clear, the first 30 minutes of our one-on-one is just a normal one-on-one. Like, how are things going? Largely, ideally driven by the designer. What do you want to talk about? With, of course, checking in on life. The back half is, and oftentimes, and like that jam time's actually sometimes optional. Sometimes you're like, you're not in a headspace ready. Oh, my work's not really there to really go deep on a thing. And that's fine. And actually, I had a jam with a designer this past week, and it was just like brainstorming and looking at wireframes. So it's not always craft based. It's more of just, hey, here's 30 minutes to use my brain that's been around Hex since not day 0, but this is pretty early on. I have a lot of context. Yeah, it's just extract things out of my brain. And that's really the intent of that, like, last 30 minutes. It's not always like it can be critique. It can be very detailed. Or one thing all designers are asked to do here is actually contribute code to our code base. And so a lot of times projects are in like the final stages, the last 5%, trying to get it shipped. There's some little CSS tweaks here and there. And honestly, the hardest thing about that is like knowing where code exists in our repository. And so I spend a lot of time with designers. Hey, here's how to find that code, and here's how to change it, and here's a CSS property you'll need to make that change. So it's across the board. It's pretty unique, but with the goal of helping raise the quality bar. The stressful things that do happen here is like we're working and suddenly you see our CEO's face in your Figma file. Oh. That does happen. He gives great feedback and like super valuable. And the reason why our quality bar is so high and we have such a great ratio of designers to everyone else on the team is because of having a CEO who cares so much about quality and delight.
That's rare. So now you're spending time jamming together on the design, raising the bar for design with designers by actually going into the Figma file. I want an honest answer. Do you ever feel like a little bit of like insecurity when you see like all these designers like blazing around Figma and you're like, man, I don't know that shortcut or I don't know how to do that quickly? Does it ever feel like that? Is it normal, I guess, if you ever feel that?
So yeah, especially I don't have the new Figma UI yet, as you can tell. And I saw one of our newer designers, he has it. But I remember when he first joined, he was like doing some insane things with Figma prototypes. And I just it's like, oh God, I didn't even know we could do that. And it was like an old man moment. It sounds like, oh, okay, it's been a while since I've had to be that hands-on and just know all the I don't know the shortcuts. I definitely don't. And it's just, but I'm not in it long enough each week to even have the opportunity or frankly, the need. It's okay. Yeah, that must be true for most tools. It's as you just use the tools less throughout the week that you're just not going to be such a power user or you'll lose it a bit.
But I think something really awesome is seeing like all the designers at Hex seeing their own design leader like you getting into the files, helping raise the bar, I think that just sets a precedence.
I've had that comment a few times with some hires here. I've never had a manager who actually is also a good designer. And I think which they really enjoy, because like the feedback lands, I think, a bit better, and the conversations are slightly different too.
I interviewed Sarah on your team, and you know what she said? She said, Adam is not only a very good design manager, but he's so good at the craft. And I believe she worked with you in the office as well. She's not remote. So she said that Adam gives me so much valuable craft feedback too. Like he himself is such a good designer.
That's great to hear all the time.
So when it comes to this feedback, do you also look at some Figma like designs and leave comments? Hey, have you explored this iteration? Have you thought about this? Do you basically give async feedback like that? Is what I'm curious.
Yeah, great questions. We do have crit once a week for an hour. Very oftentimes, probably 100% of the time, there's like a need for crit outside of that. And so it's heavily encouraged. We have like our designers channel within Slack to ask for async crit. I can pull up one recent. Oh yeah, this is more of a brand design thing. That's fine. But
yeah, I would love to see how you comment and how you leave feedback.
So a recent one on the brand design side, we have this event called How to Hex, which is just helping people understand like how to use Hex. And so one of our brand designers shared a latest thing out recently. She said, hey, looking for feedback on here. And so she might have resolved all my comments, which is nice, good practice. But I came in here and left a lot of comments. And oftentimes my comments are much more crafty. And I think it's where my strength definitely lies as a designer, is like from a craft perspective. And so we have we recently went through a brand refresh of like, here's our new style. And Annie, our brand design leader, is like excellent at building up the system for it. But I came in here, I basically zoomed all the way in. I was like, okay, we got some pixel misalignments. She since fixed them all, which is great. For example, like this purple line, oh, actually, no, he still sees an issue. It's not exactly pixel aligned. And this thing is up here too. So that's like one of the first things I do. It's where I often catch a lot of things. Like, it's also an issue here. Those things, Matt, like to me, there's like a handful of those on this page. And like when you zoom out, like you don't really notice, but something feels off. But once the changes are made, it just feels so much more crisp and clean and accurate. So that's one thing. Just a few days ago, I just jumped in and left about 10 to 15 different like little, hey, this, and I've been told that's received well. I think it's easy for it to come across as really persnickety and be over detail oriented, but I try not to worry about that too much. So I'm very persnickety, but it's okay.
First of all, I'm shocked that you even spotted that. Like, just looking at this image from here, again, it's zoomed out. I know I wouldn't even be able to tell. Even now, I cannot tell. It's only when you zoomed in, I was like, yeah. So literally here, you would just tag the comment and be like, hey, can we please?
Yeah, exactly. One thing that's funny about Figma, so here's another one example right there too. One thing that's funny about Figma is when you draw a line, this is too tactical. When you draw a line in Figma, it actually draws it on like the line here. So it's not snap to the pixel, which if you're on a retina display, you won't notice. But I don't have a retina display, and there's still a handful of people who don't have retina displays, and it'll look blurry. So if right now I'm looking at the line, and it's blurry to me, and it's not crisp, and that's why.
Oh yeah, see, I have a retina display, so to me it doesn't feel blurry.
So that partly I refuse to get one for that reason. I'm like, I don't want to not catch these things.
That's a genius reason not to upgrade to a retina display, aside from saving cost.
What's funny is, oh gosh, side story. I used to work at Palantir, and we had these incredible displays at our office, and we were just like, every engineer, designer, PM was just like, beautiful, like fast machine and beautiful display, and we were in the future. Then we would go on site to our customers and would see the things that we designed and built on their like 20-year-old laptop, or just old system, old monitor. And we're like, oh god, this looks terrible. Like we weren't designing for the reality of our users of like hardware. And so what we did, or what I did, I went to a garage sale and bought a bunch of like old monitors for $10. And we just like, everyone had an old monitor just like on their desk. And it's like, when you're designing that, put it over here so you can know what they're doing with. Things look a lot. Contrast, all these things it's just much more limiting. And now, thankfully, we're in a world where accessibility matters a lot more than it used to. So things like contrast and et cetera is just getting prioritized, which is nice.
Oh my God, I'm just blown away, man. Like, your craft bar is so good. Let's switch gears. You got a new designer joining next week. How do you onboard them?
Honestly, it's changed really with every hire because the company changes so much between each hire. We have this onboarding Figma doc that's actually not meant for designers. This is actually meant for everyone but designers. So we do design onboarding for every employee that comes to Hex. And it's slightly different. So if you're on an engineer or a PM or someone in the product org, it's going to be slightly different content than if you're like on the go-to-market side, like marketing and sales, whatever.
So question, so any new product manager that joins or any new engineers that join Hex, you're saying that you do this design onboarding for them?
Correct. Yes. So for they're an engineer, for example, we're like, and actually I will say we're in the middle of rewriting this onboarding. But for an engineer, for example, like one thing we're learning about where there's friction between design and engineering not working together, it's often because they don't have a great sense of like how to use Figma as an engineer. Not just like even like the buttons and the shortcuts, but more, okay, I'm looking at a design, right? Say they're looking at this work. It's okay, what things here are already components in our design system? And what things are the net new, brand new things that I need to worry about? What are these colors? What are these fonts? And part of it, like a big part of it is on us to maintain a deep connection to like the things that we are designing and like the Figma design system, which is then connected to the code design system, which for a variety of reasons, velocity, stall, we're a small money losing startup still. It's just hard to maintain that stuff. It's just really easy for that to go out of date. And so this engineer onboarding is intended to be a bit more, hey, FYI, that's the current state of things. Here's how to talk to us, work with us. Here's like a working agreement. We actually have this doc called like the designer engineering working agreement. I can show you briefly as well. Just like establishes, hey, here's how we as designers think. But we're not going to redline. We're not going to design every single state. We're going to get it like mostly there, and then we're going to build it together and decide the remaining 15% together as a team.
What happens if you don't do the design onboarding? What do you think would be the downside if you just do not do this design onboarding at all?
We've had issues in the past with people like just didn't know how to work with designers. So the biggest thing is like the way we work, I think feels slightly different to a lot of other, especially in enterprise SaaS. It just feels a little bit different. And that a lot of people could be used to a very waterfall structured process of first the PM writes the PRD, then gives that to the designer who designs every single state possible and redlines it. And then hands it to the engineer who sees it for the first time and they're like, okay, I'm going to build everything. Very low ownership, very slow, a lot of room for mistakes and friction in that kind of process, we believe. So instead, what we do is we make sure that the PM, designer, engineer are like working together from like day 0 to like day of shipping. And so in the past, when we've had like confusion between, so imagine like being an engineer working in that waterfall process, coming in here where we're like, wait, like, why isn't every single state designed? Wait, you're asking me to have design opinions? This is weird. I don't know. So the intent of design onboarding, and I think to what it's been successful to most in the past, is, hey, we want to change how you think about interacting with design, not just in Figma, but also like how you work with us and talk to us, and also contribute to capital D design at Hex.
So any new engineer or PM is not allowed to use the H word?
No, we don't. It's extreme. I will say there's always a handoff, right? Like a point, but like not capital H handoff. There's never a single handoff. There's just like a tight, just like iteration, loop back, redo. Oh, new technical constraints, redo that, redesign that kind of a thing. We try to like, especially on our reality team, our AI team, we try to really like design as little as possible, but redesign as much as possible. Because like new technology constraints appear every week in that world. But I think that same principle can apply to any team. I think designers want to naturally go in a hole and do some stuff and come back out and share, which I think is fine in small bursts. But like if it's like a multi-day thing, and you're going to miss out on a lot of context and communication. And then the people you're working with won't feel like they're like owning in the problem with you and owning in the solution with you.
Are there any other pages to this, or this is just it?
Just this. Oh, and then we have a whole separate brand
like
page. So what I often do is like ask them, hey, here's some pretty faces. I talk about at a high level some ways we work. And then I link to Spellbook, which I can open up for you. It's meant to be a place. It's like our design system and like various places.
I like the Slack channel part. I like just sharing, hey, these are all the channels where the designers hang out. This is what you should also join.
Yeah, it's fun. Like Design Chatter especially is super fun. Actually, Design Sharing is super fun too. Design Chatter is just like, hey, awesome new Swedish passport is out. Isn't this beautiful? And everyone can participate in that kind of discussion. And the Design Sharing channel is like our internal dribble feed or tweet.
Can we see that?
So here's just a design sharing channel. So it's meant to be like, and actually after every critique, I ask those few folks who shared things like, hey, please post this in the design sharing channel. So like Max is one of our newest hires. He's a design engineer building some incredible stuff on our website currently. So he's working on some new animation to show off some of our AI features. And there's some pretty neat stuff that he's building. So we're really excited to bring a little bit more. And actually there's a lot of opportunities to bring some of these beautiful animations and elements into our product as well. Yeah, sharing. Sarah's like, here's like the latest on this work.
So who sees this? So whenever Sarah shares all these things in design sharing, is it other designers at Hex who see this? Or because I see 56 people.
It's very public. So the whole company can come here and check out what we're doing. And so that's the intent of it. We have a few mechanisms at Hex where people can see what's happening across the organization. We have all hands. We have biweekly sprint demos. This is meant to be more of like a asynchronous kind of like venue for people to just have some emoji reactions to their place where you just don't need a lot of context to realize, dang, this is some beautiful illustrations Jamie's working on.
So I see like comments here. So basically, even if an engineer is not working on that specific design, they can just go in and comment and give their thoughts and stuff. Wow.
Yeah, we said it's funny. When we first created the channel, we set it so no one could comment because we wanted it to be a place where there was no feedback. We just want to be beyond emojis. Just like, here's a place where people can just go see, and it's all vibes, all good vibes, all positive things. And then we realized people had a lot of comments, but they were like cool comments, like positive comments, and they weren't really feedback yet. And so we opened that up, and people can just share some fun stuff too. But yeah, no, anyone can come in there, comment, and give some thoughts. And sometimes we do, like we will like solicit feedback in here, but usually we do.
I love this. This is amazing.
I will say I stole this from Slack. Slack's design team did this pretty meta. Or they used to. I'm not sure they still do.
So I think going back to your screen share, I think going back to that file, I forgot the name for it. Design onboarding. So here,
Sure.
someone, a product manager and engineer, as part of the design onboarding, they are not really good with Figma or they feel a little bit uncomfortable. What is the next step? Do they just let you know? Do you send them some video tutorials or how does that work?
It's pretty rare that someone who's not an engineer, designer, or PM is using Figma, the design tool. Typically, the rest of the org is like consuming designs via design sharing, the channel I just showed you, or we have demos every 2 weeks where we're showing kind of latest work there, or we'll post looms in like more like project appropriate channels. So like here's latest. So not too worried about that, but they do use FigJam a lot, and which is designed to be much more intuitive to folks who are on that side of the world.
Got it.
I can talk about this as well. This is a funny thing. So if you go to hex.tech/design, it redirects to a Notion page, which I can show you later as well. It's really meant to be like just expose more about our design team. It's the only team here at Hex that has something like that. I think designers in general care a lot more about things, about like the culture, about the more emotional part, about what it feels like to be on a team than maybe other roles. Maybe that's a hot take, but it's just been my experience. And it's good.
Because I've talked to a few other designers and they said the same thing. Like when they were shortlisting opportunities to join a team, the first thing they said to me was like, how is it going to feel working with this manager and working in that company? What's the vibe like? I think that's the word.
Yeah. No, and it makes so the goal of that page is really to open our heart a bit more about here's who we are, how we think about the world. Here's some funny photos of us, whatever. And then this is intended to be like, here's how we think about the spectrum of product design. Like it's an ever-growing spectrum of skill sets that we're asked to do as product designers. What's not on here, which is like probably a new one, is AI design, whatever that actually means. But I think like this kind of shit, not the specific skills, I think is like pretty personal to each company as well. So this is one that I maybe a few years ago captured with the designers at the time, just trying to figure out like what's really important to us from like a soft skill perspective, which are like the purple ones up here, down to a hard skill perspective. And we're still in the state of hiring generalists, so we still want resource fluidity, so we can put people on really any team. We don't have to worry about they're only this kind of a designer, so we don't have a lot of optionality with how we staff them. But it's super helpful for thinking about during the interview process and hiring process. Everyone's going to have gaps across the spectrum. There's no way no one's perfect across all these things. And so when I made my first design hire, I had made this for myself in my brain. What's my version of this? And I want someone who offsets me. And then with each hire since then, I've really thought about what are the current gaps in the team and try to fill those gaps. And so the goal is to build like a very well-rounded team, not like have the most amazing individual designers, because we all support each other and can help grow each other. And so these are just things that we've identified as like important to Hex, what makes a great designer at Hex.
So when I look at this from as an outsider, example product designer at Hex, I get the idea that, okay, if I want to be a designer at Hex, then I have to be a very good systems thinker. I have to be someone who learns quickly. My IA has to be very good. But just help me understand. So this is like the reference thing where ideally you're looking for a designer that works at Hex. But what if you have a candidate They maybe meets all these things, but on the interaction design, maybe instead of, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 levels, instead of 4 out of 4, they're at a 2 out of 4. How do you think about that as a hiring manager?
Yeah, so I'll screw this one. So here's like, I think the bare minimum of what someone has to have. And then there's like spikes. A spike needs, 1 or 2 spikes need to exist. And it really depends. So for example, at the current moment, we're hiring 2 people, 2 designers. One team is very uniquely going to be working on like the overall editing experience within Hex. And we've identified like that person needs to be really good at visual design. It could be an existing person on our team that we move over, or it's someone we go out and hire. But visual design has to be a strength of theirs. And so we're at the state now where we can start to be a little bit more specific, which is nice, but we still want them to be generalist enough where it doesn't, again, like it doesn't constrain us from a resourcing perspective. But yeah, I think it's like the bare minimum. And then I'm sure you've heard of like the T-shaped designer. That's been a thing for many years. Similar, like I think that still holds true for us. Is what are the strengths that they really lean on as they either manage their weakness and not make it a problem, or grow their weaknesses.
This minimum chart, I'm just going to call it the minimum chart. What if a candidate is not meeting the minimum? So let's say the candidate is not meeting the minimum for good visual taste and systems thinker, but they might have 2 other spikes in some other areas. How do you think about this kind of candidate?
I think it depends. So if their learns quickly is really high, then okay, then maybe they can grow. Some of these are easier to grow into as well. Like visual taste is really hard to grow into. Like you're just trying to teach someone how to see. But if they have low visual design but high taste, like that's really interesting, because like they would probably grow into visual design very fast because they can like self-critique and self-see themselves. So, and like during our interview process, we have a critique exercise as part of the process to like really just get a sense of like their design eye, like what do they see and not see, and what does 1 mean, what does 2 mean? It's not very quantifiable. It's more like our own like collective read after we interview someone. But each of these are slightly easier to grow than others, and I think we just play it by ear.
If you were interviewing me in an interview, hypothetically, how would you figure out that I have a good visual taste? Obviously, the traditional answer is you look at my portfolio and stuff, but aside from that, how would you know I have a good visual taste?
Yeah, it's portfolio. The portfolio review is a great get an overall picture of this entire thing. So after that first portfolio review, it's okay. So we can start plotting something, if not all things here. And then each exercise after that is to help like really harden that. So the one that's most useful to that one afterwards is we have a design critique exercise where we ask someone to bring something that they use often and just critique the hell out of it. And we'll ask questions from like visual to interaction to experience or whatever. And then we also have our own that we ask, that we kind of plop in their lap in the moment. Hey, we're going to talk about X. I won't say it, so I don't want to ruin it. Sorry, not X, the forum known as Twitter, but anyway, placeholder product. And just see how they critique that too. So it's a bit on the spot, but it's like, it gives us a sense of like how their brain works. And so it's been our most useful thing for getting like taste. Taste is super subjective. Yeah.
If you're going to ask me to bring something and critique it, isn't it in my best interest as a candidate to bring something that has a shitty design? Because if I bring something to you that's already very good design, it's hard to critique that because, it's already a lot of time and effort has been put into it on every single pixel on that design.
I think you'd be surprised. I think everything could always be better. There's no way people at Airbnb, for example, aren't looking at their product every day and being like, ugh, I wish this was better. There's like, there's so many parts of Hex where I'm like, ugh, I wish. When you work at a company, like it's like your house. I heard a designer say this recently. I love this quote, but it's like your product's like your home where you live in. As someone who lives in your house, you know where all like the dust is, you know where all the crooked picture frames are. But when people come visit your house, they don't notice that. They're like, no, it's a beautiful house. But you're just like, you're constantly like, ugh, if it could be better. And so if someone brings in, yeah, you're right. It is a little more challenging, but I don't think not everything could be better. It's almost like it speaks to them. It's like, how do they think of what kind of challenge do they want to bring, and how will they talk about it? So yeah, we haven't had that problem yet, and we've done many of these, and with a wide range. It's usually we see somewhere in between. We don't see anything. No one brings like an incredibly well-designed thing, and no one really brings like a Craigslist.org or anything. But Craigslist is beautiful all at the same time because it's so simple and it just works, and it's beautiful in its own right.
Yeah, I almost feel like, can I share and do something live with you if that's okay? So let me share my screen. So something that I would bring to this crit, if you're interviewing me, I'm actually very nervous. Oh, man, I'm put on the spot.
And keep in mind, the critique is not just visual. There's visual, there's interaction, there's the whole experience. It's like the communication is to the user. Do they understand? What is this whole flow like? The empty states maybe could be more informative or just could be more beautiful. There's like endless ways to critique something. And like we typically ask, I didn't give you the prompt, but typically when we ask people to do this, there's more detail, which says, please consider critiquing many things across the board and not just the colors and the aesthetic, for example.
Like I would probably bring this because I use Descript a lot. Like I literally use Descript a lot, like pretty much to edit this. So like after the interview gets done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and I'm going to edit all this. Like literally the whole thing is going to like me going in. I see I really love this loading animation that's happening while that's going on. And then I'm going to go in, I'm going to listen to the whole interview. I'm going to create clips. And yeah, so I love using the tool.
Like if you call out certain things that are just like beautiful little details that maybe like most people wouldn't pick up on, that's a great sign for us too.
I can tell you something that I just noticed, a detail that I think it was just today I was picking up on this detail, but let me just show you real quick. I don't know if it's going to happen here, but so you see like here on the right side where I have the project. So it shows me like these are the compositions. So these are the different files I have that I'm editing. All right. So these are, think of this as folders, but then these are the source files that I'm editing, but that it gives me an ability to minimize that. Do you see that? But the beautiful thing is as soon as I hover over this, there's that white bar that lights up. So I just noticed this interaction today because what happened is by default, it's like this. I don't know why, but so I couldn't see all the files I had and I was like, wait, where did the files go? And I was trying to figure out how to increase the height of this. And then I noticed that, oh, wow, this thing lights up. And then I was like, oh, wow, that's beautiful. And it tells me that, okay, every time you want to do this, this is how you do it. And then that bar lights up. So I thought that was a very interesting detail.
And as an interviewer, we love little details like that. And it's for a designer to create those, they need to be like imaginative and they need to care. They need to love them as much as we do. And so you signaling that you love it means that we would love for you to do that here. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, I'm getting an idea. But this is the part that was just basically like what is already good. But then I guess as part of this critique, I would also have to tell you what could be improved as well.
Yes.
Which means that I need to probably spend, something top of mind.
I mean, if you use it all the time, you must have. I mean, I do know they have a great design team, so
yeah,
it could be hard.
I think this is the new UI, so I'm still getting used to it, but I think I'm still sometimes struggling to find my source files. Like before, they had a design that was very easy to use, but sometimes I think I struggle to find my files because there's project, and there's the scene here, then there's like layers. So these are the effects that are applied to these layers, as you can see. And then this is the scene. So sometimes it's like hard to get my way around it because there's elements, there's media. So I would say like the information architecture in the new design to me sometimes is a little bit confusing. And again, you haven't seen the old designs. I was used to that old design a lot. That's where sometimes I still forget, wait, where am I supposed to go? So for example, if I just want to, let's say, mute the audio on this track. So this specific part of the guest, I want to mute the audio. Literally for a second, even though I use this tool a lot, like for a second, I'm like, wait, where do I go again? And I'm like, wait, it's not project because that's where the source files are going to be. And then it's a confusion happening in my mind. Is it elements? Is it like scene? Where is it? Then it's layers. And this is where I would go and I would like literally mute this audio here and it would mute that. So that's the challenge that I see a little bit. Or the old school way would be I would just go to the media here and then I would just right click and then I'd be like, all right. But then you can see that media is also hidden by default or it's a little bit like this. So that's the part that sometimes I'm still getting used to it with the new design. So I think those are some things like with the naming and stuff, it could be a little bit better.
Yeah. One thing that jumped out to me right away is I haven't really seen this pattern, like the far right tab design, is that kind of icon text stack is something I don't know I've seen on the far right of a screen before. Doesn't mean it's wrong. I just think it's like new and interesting. It's taking up a good amount of space. Should I be taking them that much? These are things like I would be curious to learn more about how they decided to come here. Also, in this pane specifically next to script, there's like a left arrow. Is that a navigation thing?
Yes. So it tells you the layers in the scene.
Yes. Okay. So you have a few nested things here.
But I will tell you one thing that is really good is the underlord feature. So as you think about the IA of this, for Underlord, what I really like is they've clubbed all this AI related actions into Underlord. That's what they're calling it. So you can literally go on any of these AI features and you can see this, I don't want to call it a tooltip, but it's like a tooltip. It tells you like what it is. and you can just access them in one place. So this is really good.
Yeah, I love that it's the buckets are sound good and look good. That's awesome. That's just great. It's great copy.
Yeah. So I use this a lot. Like I would, for example, like I use this remove filler words a lot. I use shorten word gaps a lot. These are things that just speed up a lot of my editing process. But it's like the other stuff that I told you, like where I'm like, okay, I need to mute this specific part. And then I always get tripped up. Wait, where was this again? Because some of these are very similar. If you think about the IA part of it, like elements sounds very similar to media. But then my question is, okay, so in media, what happens is you have all these stock video and stuff, but then music is separate. So in my mind, I'm like, wait, why are they not together in one place? Because to me, media includes music, right? So that's the part where I would probably bring that to the critique. And by the way, to the Descript folks watching this, I love the tool. Please don't ban me from using the tool. I love it. But it's just, I was trying to give Adam an example of how I would do it in the critique. Hey, this is Jay. It means the world to me that you watched this video. If you want to unlock the AI design and growth design interviews with designers at some of the top companies in the world, then head on over to sneakpeek.design and subscribe to the newsletter.